Well, hi everyone. I'm Josh Pulito and I'm an environmental educator for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County and also the Dyken Pond Environmental Education Center. Tonight, we're joined by Tamara Beal, environmental educator from the Grafton Lakes State Park, and by Jim Bonesteel, executive director of the Rensselaer Plateau Alliance. We're all going to talk about hiking opportunities available at our respective properties. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We have a few things to go over before we get started with our presentation. If at any time during the presentation you have questions or comments, please type them into the chat box and we'll do our best to cover them at the end of the night. When you submit comments through chat, you can choose between submitting them to just the panelists, so just to the hosts tonight, or to everyone. So you can choose based on your comfort level. You can also adjust the view, so how much or how little you're seeing in the upper right-hand corner of the video. We'd love to know a little bit more about you. So if you don't mind chatting in where you're from and your age, we'd appreciate it. And we'd also really like to know if you're an educator or parent and plan on exploring any of the areas that we talk about tonight with youth or with other people. Now, a little bit about Cornell Cooperative Extension before we get going. CCE serves residents of Rensselaer County by combining local experience and research-based education and solutions in the areas of agriculture, horticulture, 4-H youth development, and family and consumer science. We connect people to research-based solutions for real-world issues. Tonight's presentation will be recorded and shared online at a later date. We hope that you'll take the information that's recorded tonight and share it with others and to use it as a future reference. And because it'll all be recorded with a list of links, there's no need to frantically take notes tonight. Finally, any reference to brands or businesses isn't an endorsement and is done only for educational purposes. Now, let's get started. I'm going to begin by talking about some places to hike at the Dyken Pond Environmental Ed Center. Just give me a minute to start screen sharing here. Okay. So hiking opportunities are afoot at the Dyken Pond Environmental Ed Center. So a little bit about the center. We're open year-round and always have free entry. We have about 7 miles of hiking trails that cover 600 acres of forest. We're the only public access to Dyken Pond, which is the largest lake on the Rensselaer Plateau. We have a public non-motorized boat launch, and kayak and canoe rentals are also available. While we are the largest lake, we're also one of the most populated. So it's important to know if you're out boating that there are motorboats on Dyken Pond, although none are permitted to enter through the environmental center. While the lake can be a little crowded, our woods are very quiet. So we manage the forest as a low recreational use and backcountry area for hiking, exploring, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and more. We have a variety of habitats on the property with abundance of different plants and animals. Just a reminder to please hike responsibly wherever you are. So just a reminder to please practice carry in, carry out wherever you practice leaving no trace and to not collect when you're visiting any of our properties. And please model the behavior you'd like to see in others and support one another's enjoyment of the outdoors. We can make a big difference in people's enjoyment who are just starting out with a little support and a few kind words. So something to keep in mind as we're out and about. For finding the center, you can find detailed directions from any direction on our website. And if you are trying to find us using a GPS, please put in Dyken Pond Environmental Education Center. You need the whole thing. It's a big lake and roads come to different sides. So putting in our full name, make sure you get to the place that you wanted to visit. Also take it slow. We have a 2.5-mile dirt entrance road that can be narrow in the winter, pretty muddy in the spring, and we do update our voicemail and website with both trail and road conditions. A little look at our road in the summer, quite picturesque, and as you can see, it gets a bit more narrow and more requiring of all-wheel drive as the snow flies. We have 2 parking areas. So the first would be 1.5 miles in the dirt entrance road, and it's on the right-hand side. That's a great lot to use if you want to visit our spring trail, Newcomb Pond, or the southern part of our long trail. The road would end at our main parking area 1 mile further down the road. And here is our main, well, here's our map. Let me get a laser pointer here. So the lower parking area, the first to access those southern trail systems starts there. And our main parking area would be right here, 1 mile further up the road. Let's just zip ahead. So when you get to our parking area, you'll see a kiosk where you can pick up trail maps, view some of our educational displays, and learn about our seasonal offerings. We also have a bird feeding area and a pollinator garden nearby the main parking area. There's a large map there and it's a great place to get your bearings. A lot of our trails start from the main parking area and have trailheads or trail markers that are visible from where you park. And if you were coming just to see the lake, it's 800 feet past the gate where my pointer is hovering right now. Quick look at our bird feeding area. It's a good spot just to teach kids about native birds, and it can really be a great spot to take photos. We also have a pollinator close by, some benches and picnic areas close by, and do have a labeled selection of deer-resistant native pollinators. The bird feeding area is also viewable from the pollinator garden. All right, on our trails. So our trails are marked with these colored diamond markers, and they'll correspond with the colors that you'll see on our trail map. We have the trails marked, as you can see in the picture, so that from one trail marker, you're able to view the next one off in the distance. So our trails are very well marked overall. One spot that you do have to look out for are shortcut trails are unmarked, but each one of those would have a sign that would say to such and such a trail. So if you were on Old Road and looking for the long trail at Old Road, there'd be a sign that says to Long Trail, and on Long Trail, there'd be a sign that says to Old Road, but the trails are unmarked for short distances on those little connectors. I'm going to recommend 2 really short loop trails that are both accessible from our main parking area. The Cherry Trace Trail is a half-mile loop, short trail that takes you by a pond and a bunch of birdhouses before you get back in a thick hemlock forest. The trail almost always has a kids activity that you'd find out about at our main display sign, and they tend to rotate through every month or so. The trail also has a self-guiding brochure, so you can pick one up and read along as you hike to learn about forestry. Our At Farm Trail is another loop that can be seen starting right from the parking lot. It's also the beginning of Long Trail, which is a trail I'll talk about in greater length momentarily. And the At Farm Trail has a guidebook that will tell you about how the land used to be used and tell you about At Farm itself. I did mention the tunnel tree on Cherry Trace, just a little incentive to get people out with kids. Who doesn't love to climb through a tree? Something fun to do. Okay, so over on our map, here's our parking area, and there's the Cherry Trace Loop, which if you were looking at our main display sign, you'd see a little pond, and it'd be right to the left of that. Make sure to catch some things and look at some things in our pond as well. The At Farm Loop, again, would start and end right at our main parking area and would pick up in our field and by our barn. The next trails I'm going to talk about are going to be our Lakeside Trails. So if you went past that gate 800 feet down to the lakeside, you'd see a little canoe storage building, and the shoreline trail would be to your left, and to the right of that entrance road, you'll have the water trail and Witch Hobble Wander. So our shoreline trails, the longest one covering the shoreline, really good spot to look for bald eagles, osprey, waterfowl. There's some benches lining the trail, at least 2 picnic areas, a fishing dock, and canoe and kayak launch. Our boat access is seasonal and it's restricted to daylight hours. And the shoreline trail will connect to the long trail. So if you're looking to see the lake and to get deep into the woods on a longer hike, the shoreline to long trail route might be for you. Our Witch Hobble Wander Trail also has a self-guiding brochure, and this time on plant ecology. I have some pictures of ghost pipes and witch hobble or hobble bush over to the side. This one follows the shoreline. It does have some tree canopy cover, and it's a great spot to visit with kids because you're so close to the water, the woods, and by the end of fall, it's almost always lined with fairy houses, which whether you see them as litter or a delight, it can be a fun area to walk through. Our water trail is a short lakeside loop. We have a storybook set up where you can stop at stations and read and complete fun little activities as you hike along. This year's book focuses on bees and pollinators. Okay, on to our longer hikes. I'm going to cover the Dyken Pond Loop, which you can see our destination here over to the right. You can get there from either parking area and would be about a 3-mile round trip. For an easy in and out to Dyken, the first parking area that you come to is a good one. For the purpose of today, I'm going to talk through the whole loop starting from the main parking area. And Dyken Pond was created by beavers, has several active lodges on it, and we've been picking up a lot of river otter on our trail camera there recently. Other things to look for, we tend to have great blue heron nesting, and of course, waterfowl. Wood ducks are also almost always there in the summer when I visit, and I think it's because the lake's so far removed from other hiking trails. It's also lined with really large, impressive pieces of club moss that cover acres at a time. Couple quick pictures of Dyken, just because I enjoy looking at it and hope you will as well. And so Dyken is a destination, is this wetland that I'm hovering over right now. And the route I'm going to suggest for getting there starts from our main parking area and would follow Old Road or the purple trail markers before taking a left on the coral trail markers down Dyken Pond Trail and onto the Spring Trail. So Old Road's our widest, flattest trail, and that's evidence of being an old carriage road that used to lead into the town of Grafton. As you hike along Old Road, look for stone walls, old foundations, pastures, and wolf trees, all evidence of the people who once lived here. Also, the width of that trail allows a lot of sunlight to reach the forest floor, so it's one of my favorite trails to take when I'm out looking for wildflowers in the spring, this time of year. Turning onto the Coral Trail, so on the Newcomb Pond Trail, the trail will provide a really nice overlook of Newcomb Pond. I mentioned acres of club moss lining the sides of the trails. The lake itself has some very large patches of cotton grass and tends to be covered with yellow water lilies or spatterdock by late season. As you hike along this trail, you'll pass by beaver lodges, you'll cross over a beaver dam and past a bunch of birdhouses, both provided and natural. It's a great place to bird, so definitely bring binoculars when you visit Newcomb Pond. The last part of that loop would be the spring trail, which is named for a spring on the side of the trail. You'll notice some interesting spruce growth along the side of the trail. You're just surrounded by small trees. And you'll also pass by vernal ponds, both large and small. There's a marked vernal pond on the map, and near it there's a small unmarked trail that I'd like anyone who's interested to look for. It leads to one of the largest, oldest trees on our property. It's pretty hard to photograph, so the one on the left gives as much as I could fit on my camera, and the one on right gives a little bit of scale. It's a tree you really have to see for yourself to appreciate, though, and pretty unique to this area. All right, moving on to our long trail. So we're going to do this one in two sides, and to start out with, we're focusing on the south side of the road. So this begins at our lower parking area and leads to Dustin Swamp. So it's a series of wetlands in various stages of succession. You'll first cross through a spruce fir swamp before crossing another beaver dam and ultimately reaching Dustin Swamp after walking through some very thick hobble bush. Dustin Swamp's beaver-created sedge meadow, and it's the largest wetland on our property. A really good spot to look for birds and amphibians. There's also some great plant communities in it. You can see all of the white in the background is all cotton grass. So going through, this area would be the spruce fir swamp that you'd come through. You'd cross a beaver lodge right in this area before coming over and making your way to Dustin Swamp. Dustin Swamp would actually end, or I shouldn't say end, but you would have to cross the entry road to pick up the north side of the trail system. Two more quick pictures of Dustin Swamp. And now onto the north side of the long trail. So for this, I'm kind of going to zip back and actually I'm not. We'll continue straight through. Another place to pick up the long trail would be the main parking lot, but we're going to pick right up at the road or gate for Dustin Swamp. The long trail really gets into some very deep forest and some dark spots. It has hemlock forest, more reminiscent of the Adirondacks, and it will eventually give way to northern hardwood forest. For the purpose of this, I'm going to actually move us up along this white trail, and our next stop is going to be this pink area, which is the Mary Mcfalls Trail. When we make the trail cross for such a short period of time, you know we want you to see something special. So that portion of the long trail has a wetland called the fen. It's a very special, small, and unique habitat where limited nutrients lead to really interesting plant life. The picture in the middle is sundew, so that's one of our insectivorous plants. And the next, I've got purple pitcher plants, which will line the boardwalk that you'd walk through as you cross through our fen. We have the pitchers on one side, the flowers on the other. While you're out on the white long trail, you'll pass by tons of glacial erratics. There's lots of curious rock walls, vernal pools. We have a large meadow that we manage as a meadow and is filled with ferns. And the long trail is my favorite animal tracking area. So there's lots of animal activity. Again, because that horn of trail touches so little of the rest of the trail system. So it's really a pretty isolated area of the forest. We hope that you will love our trails the way we do. And I see that I am out of time. So I'm just going to ask people to chat in questions. I'm actually going to stop screen sharing and pass things over to Tamara, who will get set up and begin sharing with us some information about Grafton State Park. So I'm gonna hand things over and just give Tamara a minute to get her slideshow set up.
All right, I think everyone can see me. So like Josh said, my name is Tamara, and I am the environmental educator at Grafton Lakes State Park. I've only been there about a year and a half. It's an interesting year and a half to be starting at a park. So we are going to talk a little bit about the trails that we have at the park. Just a little bit to know where we are located. We're about 20 minutes from Troy, east of Troy. Kind of in between Albany and the border of Vermont and Massachusetts. Let me see if... And so Grafton Lakes State Park has 25 miles of trails. We're quite a large park with 250,000 acres, 6 ponds. We have a welcome center that is new as of about 3 years ago. We are known well for our giant beach. A lot of people don't actually know the fact that we have 25 miles of trails as well as the beach. Concession stand on the beach. This year we will have boats for rent and pavilions for rent. So both of those, as well as the concession stand, did not happen due to COVID last year, but are coming back this year starting Memorial Day weekend. And so this is our northern part of the park. You can see it's quite expansive. So the northern part of the park includes 5 different ponds and most of our acreage. And the southern part of the park looks a little bit bigger than it actually is. It's not exactly to scale with the northern part of the park. So we do have a total of 6 ponds. 5 of those are natural. So all of the ponds in the northern part of the park are natural. They are glacial lakes versus Dunham Reservoir was originally made to be a water source, is no longer used for that purpose. So of our 6 ponds, we'll start with Mill Pond. Mill Pond does have a parking lot access. There's a trail, Mill Pond Trail, partially going around the pond. And then there's a road actually going around the rest of it. It is 25 feet deep and at an elevation of 1,475 feet. And so the trail that goes around Mill Pond is just a short little trail that connects Spruce Bog with Second Pond. And we're actually doing a lot of work on our trails to make them a little bit more understandable, to connect them. So for the parking, basically that is where the parking is. So usually if you were to come into the park, you would come along Grafton Lakes State Park Way. You would go all the way down that road and go to the beach. But for going to Mill Pond, you can instead go along the road until you get to the town store. You can see that written down at the bottom. and then you would take a left there and then park in the parking area there. From there, you can take Mill Pond Trail, or you can take Spruce Bog Trail. Mill Pond is only about a half a mile and connects up with Second Pond Trail. Very nice trail. And Spruce Bog is a 2.5 mile trail that brings you towards our fire tower. But you don't have to go all that way. You can make a little loop with the connector trail, crossover, and basically come back down on the road to Mill Pond, and that's about a 1.5 mile little loop there. So that's a nice one you can do there. Spruce Bog does go near some bogs, so it's a beautiful location there. And then our Second Pond Trail also has parking lot access. There is a trail partially going around right on the edge of the pond. It is 25 feet deep and 1,490 feet in elevation. And so the parking area is at the southern end of Second Pond. The trail that goes around Second Pond is very rocky. I like to run at the park a lot, and I usually avoid that trail. It's a good walking trail, and if you have a fat tire bike, we do allow hiking, mountain biking, horseback, but that trail is best for slower hiking. And it does partially go around the pond, but not around the entire pond. And that parking area you would access the same way you would get to the Mill Pond. You just keep going on that road. It'll just be around a bend on the left. Long Pond. Long Pond is our most well-known pond. It's where the beach is. So most of the people that come to the park enjoy Long Pond. It does have parking lot access at both the south and the north end. The trail completely goes around the entire pond. It's 2.5 miles long. Long Pond is 33 feet deep at an elevation of 1,501 feet. And so here you can see where the two parking access points are. So the main parking access point is coming in the main park entrance. If you come in the main park entrance between May 1st and Columbus Day, you do have to pay a fee between $6 and $8, depending on the time of the year. If you are coming in the Long Pond Road to the northern parking lot, you do not have to pay a fee. There's no gate there. And so you can park at either parking lots. For the winter time, Long Pond Road is very sketchy. So I would suggest avoiding that road in the winter, but in the summer, as long as you take the road slow, it can get ruts in it. So taking that road slow, especially if you're going past Second Pond on your way to the northern end of the pond. Long Pond is one of our most popular trails, as it does go right from the beach, but it is very rocky. It's not the type of trail that you want to take in your flip-flops. Even though a lot of people do, because it is right from the beach. And it is 2.5 miles around. So it is a decent length and requires a good pair of shoes. And then we have White Lily Pond. So White Lily Pond is probably our least known pond. It's on the edge of our park. There is parking lot access. The trail that goes from there only partially goes around the pond. It really doesn't stay by the pond very long. Much of the pond is privately owned, edges of the pond, unlike our other 5 ponds, which are completely owned by the park itself. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the information about the depth and elevation for this pond, but you can see here, this is where you would want to park for White Lily. So if you were coming from Troy, you would go past the normal entrance, the Grafton Lakes State Parkway entrance. You would go past the town store, and you would turn left onto Babcock Lake Road, right by the old elementary school. You go about 1/2 mile. It is very easy to miss this parking lot because it is not marked. So as you're going about 1/2 mile, you'll start going up a little hill, and it is just at the top of that little hill on the left. And so there are There's a nice loop there with Conklin Pass and White Lily trails. So that is about 1.5 mile loop that will bring you around there. And that's one of my favorite places to be. It is very windy. It's actually a really good mountain biking area. So people really love to mountain bike there. It is also really fun for trail running because of the windiness. We are working on marking that area better because of the windiness. You need extra markers. So we are currently working on that, and you can help us later on that. Shaver Pond. Shaver Pond is probably the next most popular pond. You have parking lot access at 3 different areas for this pond, 1 in the main part of the park, 2 on the outside. The trail follows the circumference of the pond. It is our deepest pond at 56 feet deep, and the elevation is 1,468 feet. It is a oligotrophic pond, which means that it is very pure and very clear because there is not a lot of nutrients in this pond. For that reason, it is the only pond we do not allow swimming in. At the beach is the only place where we have lifeguards, so anywhere other than that is at your own risk, but we do not allow swimming at Shaver Pond for the reason of the purity of the water. So here you can see where our parking areas are for Shaver Pond. You can come into the main entrance and park right where the beach is, and then take a nice little hike around Shaver Pond. Shaver Pond probably is the most open and flat trail that we have. And so it is definitely one of the favorites of people to do with their kids, with their grandkids. It is a 2-mile loop around that pond. And you can come in through the Shaver Nature Center access point, the fishing access point, or like I said, through where the beach is in the main part of the park. And the main part of the park is also where our welcome center is. And then finally, the Dunham Reservoir. So the Dunham Reservoir is located on the southern part of the park. So a lot of people don't even know the Dunham Reservoir is part of our 2,500 acres. And so there are actually 4 access points. 4 access points for Dunham Reservoir and another parking lot as well. So there are trails that follow near the water's edge, not completely on the water's edge. It is about 30 feet deep and 1,319 feet. And so here you can see the different access points for the Dunham Reservoir itself. Some of these trails are my favorite, partially because you're in the southern part of the park. It's quieter, there's not as many people around. You see a lot of people using their kayaks, their canoes. So we do allow kayaks and canoes, any non-motorized boats on any of our lakes. So there are boat access points to all of our lakes. And sometimes multiple, like for this one, you have one at either end of the Dunham Reservoir. And then the trails themselves, you can see an X in the middle of the double bit trail. There is no bridge connecting that trail. So that is something to take into account. If you're parking on the Dunham Reservoir Road, it is only a ½ mile to a spillway, and then you can't cross there. So it is a nice short little jaunt. If you're parking on the Johnson Road side, using the double bit DB red trail, it's beautiful. It winds through the woods there, and it does give you nice views along the reservoir. The South Dunham, the orange trail, does not actually follow the lake for most of the trail, and it also comes out on the road. So I mentioned earlier, we are working to revamp our trail system. So this is one of the ones that we're hoping to redo, where it will follow along the water for the last part of it and connect with the double bit trail. So that way you're not being dumped out on Dunham Reservoir Road. But as of right now, that is the deal for that one. Beautiful trail out in the middle of the woods. Not a lot of people go on that trail, so it's a really nice one if you want more of a quieter hike. And then one of our highlights is our Dickinson Fire Tower. So the fire tower was opened in 1924, and then closed in 1972. So it operated for about 50 years, where there was at least half a dozen different fire tower observers. And access was granted to the park in 2010. And this was after about 20 years of the Friends group trying to get access, trying to be able to restore the fire tower for public use. So the restoration, you can see in the picture in the top left, took place from 2010 to 2012, and it was reopened to the public in 2012, declared as a National Historic Site. And so you can go up to the fire tower any time of the year, whether it's winter or summer. We do not close the fire tower. From the fire tower, you can see 5 different mountain ranges. So you can see the Adirondacks, the Catskills, the Berkshire Mountains in Vermont, or sorry, the Berkshire Mountains in Massachusetts, the Green Mountains in Vermont, and the Taconic Mountains. So it's beautiful up there on a clear day. And so there are a couple different ways you can access the fire tower, depending on how hardy you are. There is no parking right at the end, or right at the right near the fire tower itself, unfortunately. So it does require some of a hike. You can park at the northern end of Long Pond. That is about a 1.5 mile hike up to the fire tower. It's an old road, basically, so it is very wide. A little steep in some areas, not very much though. You can park at the White Lily parking lot access, and you can hike 2.5 miles up to the fire tower for a total of 5 miles. You can also hike from the beach itself. If you want to spend the day at the beach and then also do a hike, you can hike using Long Pond to the fire tower access, the Blue Trail, Interpretive Trail, and there are interpretive panels along that trail. So that's kind of cool. You can learn a little bit of the history of the fire tower, and that is 2.5 miles, 5 miles total. If you want to get involved, we also have events. So if you want to help us maintain our trails, we do have a Earth Day event this coming Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. This event is specifically for adults or those who are a little bit older. And we will be going out and restoring some of our trails, possibly trail marking, things like that. And so again, that is from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and it does require pre-registration. So I will have a phone number at the end that you can write down to call us to register for that. We also have trail marking. So we are marking our trails, like I mentioned earlier. You can join us to help mark our trails. We have a docent, a trained volunteer who will be leading public trail marking on April 25th. From 12 to 3 and May 23rd from 12 to 3 as well. So you can sign up for those. And that is nice because we have had issues in the past with trail marking. So we're trying to really mediate that. If you have a family or if you have grandkids, I Love My Park Day is great for the entire family. So that is in about 2.5 weeks. That is May 1st from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You do need to call to pre-register. All of our events, all of our programs do require you to wear a mask for the entire duration of the program or the event. But this is really good for families, younger kids, versus Earth Day is really good for adults. It is our 50th anniversary. So we do have merchandise to promote that anniversary. We will have these for sale in Welcome Center all the time and also have them for sale during the events themselves. So if you sign up for Earth Day, or if you sign up for I Love My Park Day, or any other of our events, we are also giving away a t-shirt at each one of our events. So you can see with different things that we have for sale here, ranging between $1 and $12. So not very expensive. Finally, Grafton Lakes State Park is open year-round, so we would love for you to come see us. We'd love for you to enjoy the 50th anniversary with us. You can see I'm wearing the t-shirt right now. Like I mentioned earlier, we have hiking, mountain biking, horseback riding in the winter. We have snowshoeing, snowmobiling. So we are a very versatile park, and we would love to see you come out. copy down our phone number, our email address, and if you have any further questions, we will answer all the questions at the end. I know I've seen lots of questions popping up, and thank you for having me, and I look forward to hearing about Jim now, and I will stop sharing.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll just give Jim a minute to get set up for screen sharing, and he's ready. Take it away, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Josh. All right, here we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Bonesteel. I guess you know that already. I'm the Executive Director of the Rensselaer Plateau Alliance. And Josh invited me to tell you about our trails. And we're spread out all over the plateau. We're not just in one spot. RPA currently owns 2,607 acres of land, all of which is open to the public. There's another 11,000 acres that are in process and coming soon. 9,700 odd acres of those lands are owned by the Conservation Fund, not by us, but we helped facilitate that. That's the former COE lands. I'll show you a map of that on the next slide. I was, as Josh was presenting, I was reminiscing because for many years I was on the board of directors of the Friends of Dyken Pond and was the president, and actually was involved in a lot of the land acquisition, smaller projects there at Dyken Pond that made many of those lands available. So it was kind of fun to think about that. It's how I got my start. The trail maps and info and directions on how to get to all of these lands are on our website. Oh, that's something I was going to do was I am going to post in the chat information about me and some links. So on our website, that's where you go and find our conserved lands. There's going to be more lands coming there. So my slide's not advancing now. Okay. So here's a map of the plateau. This little thin line around here shows the ecological boundary of the Rensselaer Plateau. And today I'm going to talk about 5 of our properties. Up here is the Grafton Forest. It's 1,200 acres. We've owned it for since 2016, and actually most of it has now been sold to New York State DEC. It's going to almost double the Pittstown State Forest here. There's still 188 acres that's left to sell, but DEC owns most of that property now. And then going south, I'm going to talk about the Postcode Community Forest. And then we're going to head west from there and talk about the Barberville Falls Preserve. And I'm going to come down here and talk about Chestnut Hill. And then in the far south here, the Albert Family Community Forest. All of the dark green properties are either owned by RPA or, in the case of Grafton Forest, recently transferred to DEC. You'll see a couple of others, and I may mention them as we go along too, as they're coming soon. So this is a photo of the Grafton Forest. It's in near the top of near one of the first views you can get to. That's easily most easily accessed from the parking area. The parking area is accessed along at the end of Stuffle Street, which is off of Route 2 as you're coming up the hill towards Grafton Lakes State Park. You would take a left on Stuffle and you have to just follow it all the way to the very end. At the end of it, it gets pretty rough. although people in Toyota Priuses and Chevy Volts can make it all the way back in if you mind where your tires go over the rocks and the puddles back in there. We're hoping DEC might improve that road. But that would bring you to a parking area down here. And this is a pretty big property. It's almost 1,200 acres. It's pretty extensive and it's remote. You can spend a half a day out there wandering around and not see anyone. And my recommendation for this property is plan to spend a half a day. It has some beautiful views. The views are some of the same views you can get from the fire tower. The fire tower, of course, has got better views, but if you're looking north towards the Adirondacks and the Green Mountains, you'll see some similar views. The Dunham Reservoir in the foreground. This view, you can see this, the picture up here is the view from the Reiner's Roost, what we call Reiner's Roost. And if you spend a half a day, you can follow a trail all the way around this way and hit the views. There's also a lean-to that was built by Eagle Scouts a few years ago. It's a great spot to stop and have lunch. I did this hike with my family in the winter, and we built a little fire there and had a nice lunch. So it's a big property. There's lots of places to explore. One thing you would want to mind at the parking area, there are some old logging roads that leave, so you maybe take some special care to look for the footpaths, which will be nicer than the old logging roads. So moving south to the Postcode Community Forest. This is a picture in the area of the Big Beaver Bog. This was the Postcode Community Forest was the first property that RPA acquired back in 2014. It is 436 acres. We added some property to it a few years back, and there's 7.5 miles of hiking trails here. So this property has a lot of trails on it, as you can see from this map, and there's quite a variety. The thing that's always struck me about the Postcode Community Forest is just the diversity of the terrain that you find on a hike on this property. In the south, there's like, this is not going to be accurate, but it's glacial moraine. It's old, big, probably not moraine, but it's big, steep slopes of gravel and till in a kind of a unique area. And then when you head up north, it just gets into deep forest, flat, rolling. My favorite hike to do here is out the Moose Trail. And it's called the Moose Trail because we've seen moose on it. And it's a really nice, easy, wide trail. And I'll come out here to the Sugar Rock Road and then down the Big Beaver Bog and up the Perch Pond Trail and back around the Ridge Trail. And that's just a variety of all kinds of different things. Bogs, there's hemlock swamps, there's old stone walls on top of steep slopes. There's really quite a bit of diversity there. And the steward of this property, Jeff Briggs, and the Community Forest Committee, our properties are run by committees of community members, and the Community Forest Committee and Jeff have really put a lot of effort into the property. One of the things that Jeff built, headed up and built with some other volunteers recently was Dorothy's Equal Access Trail. So there's a ½ mile trail that goes back into the Little Beaver Bog that is ADA accessible, wheelchair accessible. It's crushed stone and boardwalks. It's beautiful. So there's all, you could explore Postcode Hill Community Forest and see lots of different things. You'll notice the trails down here with the little square markers are their mountain bike trails. So you can bring your mountain bike out and bike on some of those trails, or find a bike on down there. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about Barberville Falls. And this is a picture of the falls. And it's a pretty spectacular place. It's probably one of the most iconic spots on the Rensselaer Plateau. The place to go here is, down to the bottom of the falls. It's a short hike. It'll only take you a couple minutes from the new parking area on Blue Factory Road. If some of you are familiar with Barberville Falls from years past, it was always a little bit hard to get there. We solved that problem last summer. There's a parking area that will hold 16 cars and a trail that will take you right to the bottom of the falls from that parking area. The volunteer trail crew did an amazing job. They built steps, and it's quite nice. Another one of my favorite trails is the Creek Trail, which you would take from the old parking area, and it just goes down along the creek there. But there's also another trail up around. It's called the Ridge Trail, and it's just a nice walk through the woods and dips down to the shore of the Postcode Hill Creek here in the back section. In this picture, we're looking up through the leaves of the American chestnut tree. We're going to talk about Chestnut Hill. Chestnut Hill is 34 acres. It's a small property. It was donated to us by Ken James, who spent 40 years of his life working to restore the American chestnut on the property. And he went out and he grafted scions onto chestnuts every year, and he planted trees. He would always be out there working on the property. Most of you probably know that chestnuts die from the chestnut blight after they get to a certain size. And this property has a number of chestnuts that are healthy and growing on it. Some of them are diseased, but we have people in there treating them in the hopes that this site will become a site for the new blight-resistant strain of American chestnut that's coming out of Cornell and SUNY ESF. But you can see some chestnut trees back on this property. There's one main loop that goes around, and there's some really cool things to see on it. There's this big, really impressive nurse log tree, and there is a hemlock tree that got struck by lightning. And I know the exact date and time when they got struck is in 2017, I believe. And this tree just blew up. So it's got pieces of it spread out. 100-foot diameter, so it's a pretty cool spot up there. The thing about Chestnut Hill, if you look down on this map, is it sticks into this other area that's 1,400 acres or so, and that area will become open to the public. So Chestnut Hill is going to be kind of the access to this much bigger area in a year or two. And next, I'm going to go to the Albert Family Community Forest. This is the property furthest to the south of ours right now. This is the stream that flows down the Cascade Trail. And this, again, is a community forest that's run by a committee of community members. The property has a lot of history. There's some amazing stone walls on the property. Some of them are 8 feet wide and intersecting in places. And there are some old homesteads. There are 3 old hand-dug wells on the property that were protected by Eagle Scout as an Eagle Scout project. Another Eagle Scout project you see up here is this big bridge over the creek up here on the Homestead Trail. And when I go to Albert Family, my go-to hike is to start out around on the Homestead Trail. I meet people there quite often, and then when you come around here, you get to make a decision if you want to do a nice long hike and up on Susan's Ramble around and the Orchard Trail, or if you want to do a shorter hike and you get right back to the parking lot here. A lot of these trails kind of center back near parking, so you can do a quick loop. And then the Cascade Trail that comes down here is really nice. It just, the stream just cascades down the hill over this series of small waterfalls the whole way. So this time of year, it's really, really beautiful. And in the spring, when the ice is still on it and it's starting to melt, it's a beautiful trail. You might want to look at our website under our lecture series. There are some recordings of lectures and one recording called The History Under Our Feet, where this young man, he works with the metal detector, but is much more than that. I was expecting, oh, this will be a nice little presentation, but he finds these things and researches them and was able to tell us this amazing history about this property, about the people who lived there, what they were like. So if you're interested in things like that, you can find that on our website, and we talked about this property in that lecture quite a bit. So I'll just wrap up by saying, we talked about a couple thousand acres here that we own right now. There's a couple other properties, the Gutierrez Family Forest down here in Stephentown. It's not quite open yet. It's on Garfield Road. There's no parking area there, but there's parking along the road, and people are welcome to come and try to find it. There's a little sign out there and directions. Well, I don't know if we have directions on the website, but you're welcome to explore that. It's got a beautiful wetland and a trail already built. And then up in here, we've got another property, Bessie's Woods, that will be coming later in the year, and that one you can't get to now. These other brown-colored properties are the former Coe lands, and they're in the process of being sold to DEC. So these properties down here in the south are going to become part of the Capital District Wildlife Management Area, which is connected to Cherry Plains State Park. It's going to become just a huge area, and the main focus there is going to be for sportsmen and hunters, but there will, DEC has told us that they will allow a through trail, and we'll be working with the community and working with DEC to try to get a through trail that would go all the way up through this whole area. This property up here in the north, or these properties, are also being sold to DEC. They're going to become state forest. So they will have also be open to the public, but they'll be managed a little bit differently and be able to have more extensive trail systems. And you'll notice that this one property does connect to the Kill Community Forest over here. So there's a lot of connections, and we've already been working on a connection to connect up through here. We have a trail vision project that we've been working on for years, and the vision is to connect a trail from down here all the way up to here, and maybe eventually over to from the Pittston State Forest to Tibbetts State Forest. So we're talking 5 years out, 10 years out. I don't know what it is, but that's the vision, and we've got plans to do that. And I will just leave you with this page, which is the same information that I posted in the chat. I'll point out there's this a couple recent articles that are really quite nice. In the Upstate Economy, there's the 10 Can't Miss Walking Trails in Rensselaer County. It's really well done. It's done by our RPA's communications director, Annie Jacobs. And then a reporter at the Times Union picked up on that, and he did it. He made a trip out to the Grafton Forest, and it's really kind of a very interesting article, and a bit there's a bit of humor in it too. So it's short but fun to read. And that's it for me. Thank you all for listening.
All right, thanks so much. And if you don't mind, Jim, while I still have you unmuted, I thought maybe we could work backwards from you with questions since they're the freshest. One was just for the Post and Kill property. Is there any plan for improving markers or maps? Someone commented that they got lost when they visited.
Well, I will take that question as a note to pass on to Jeff that we should look at that. So there's always looking at improving the trails, and so I'm sure that will be well received, and yes, we'll work on that.
Thanks a bunch, Jim. And one more, does the new Barberville Trail still pass by the old hydroelectric dam?
No, it does not.
No, it does not.
In fact, the trail that goes in there to the top, to that overlook, is closed at the moment, mainly because it's you have to walk on the road past the neighbors to get there. We're trying to discourage that. People are still using it, but the new trail will get you right to the bottom of the falls in a really nice way. And we have another newer trail that hopefully will be coming in a year or two, a professionally built trail to get you down to the bottom of the falls. And someday we hope to open the other trail up at the top of the falls too.
Okay, and one other question we had was on trail maps. Just to point out for anyone looking for RPA trail maps, there is a link up on the screen that would get you to those. And when you visit any of RPA's properties at the main parking area, they will have trail maps available for those properties. Tamara, do you mind if I ask you to unmute and throw a question or two your way? And I apologize if you answered during your presentation. I was kind of furiously taking notes. So if you already answered this, I'm sorry. But the question was about the color on Grafton's trail maps, and does the color of trails correspond with trail difficulty?
The color does not. Nope, the colors have nothing to do with anything other than somebody chose that color.
Okay, and the same would be true of my trail maps. And for both Grafton's, Dyken Pond's, and RPA's trail maps, they would all include trail links on the maps next to the name and color of the trail. One final question that I received was, do I need to worry about ticks at Dyken Pond? And my answer to that is you need to worry about ticks wherever you visit outside. It's just good practice, just like earlier I mentioned, always practicing carry in, carry out, and leave no trace, even if those things aren't required. Just getting in the habit of looking for ticks every time you visit an outdoor space is a good idea. That said, Dyken Pond has a fairly low tick population, but other areas on the plateau can be higher, and you should always do a tick check after you're out. Anyone else?
And I saw one person had a question about the fire tower. I apologize for not using the laser pointer, but this is where the fire tower is located. And the easiest way to get there is the 1.5-mile trail along the Fire Tower Interpretive Trail.
You are good. You did that before I could even ask you to. Fantastic. Okay, and it looks like we have one more gym question, and it's just how steep is the descent to the bottom of the falls at Barberville with the new trail cut in? I'm hearing him say it is steep.
Yeah, it is steep. It's definitely much more manageable than the old trail that went down there. That was steep and slippery and could be fairly treacherous. This one, in the winter when there was ice on it, it was you had to have, you know, traction devices. But you know, this time of year, if you can manage, it's fairly manageable if you're capable of doing, you know, any kind of, you know, hiking on steep terrain. They did put in stairs on the steepest parts. There's gravel on the trail to improve traction. It's professionally designed in many places. And the new trail that we hope to build will be even more approachable for folks.
Okay, great. Well, and I think that brings us to the end of the questions and about the end of our time. Just a reminder, all of this will be up on CCE's YouTube channel in about a week, and we'll have links to maps and some other helpful tools included when that goes live. I'd like to just thank everyone for joining us. Find out about all the work that we do by visiting our website at ccerensselaer.org, and be sure to visit our Facebook and Instagram pages. You can just look for CCE Rensselaer County. Feel free to reach out through our county email, rensselaer@cornell.edu, and you can reach out to me directly at jp844@cornell.edu. Finally, I'd like to thank Tamara and the Grafton Lakes State Park and Jim and the Rensselaer Plateau Alliance so much for joining us tonight and for caring for and for making your properties accessible to the public. I'd also like to thank Jim just for ending with a nice positive on the future of a much longer trail going through our entire region. So thanks for singing us out on a high note. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and wish you a good night. Thanks so much, all.